Good afternoon, students. Class 7th. I hope my students are around. Today I am back with history section. Fourth chapter from your NCERT textbook, that is Mughal Empire. Few days back even I had posted a preview of this chapter. Hope you have enjoyed watching it. Now getting on to Mughal Empire. What is it? In fact, when we talk about medieval period or Middle Ages, predominantly it was ruled by Mughals, Mughal period. Now Mughals created an empire from latter half of the 16th century and expanded their kingdom from Delhi to Agra, and until 17th century they controlled nearly all the subcontinents. They imposed structures of administration and ideas of governance which outlasted their rule. To simplify it, we term it as Mughals created an empire which was quite in contrast with their predecessors. They actually left a political legacy that the succeeding rulers of the same continent, subcontinent would have followed. Nobody could ignore it. So when we look at some of the structures like Red Fort, which was the residence of Mughal emperors. Now the question arises, who were Mughals? Because till now we were talking about Delhi Sultanate, Sultans of Delhi. Now who were Mughals? If we look into this, we get to see that Mughals were the descendants of two great lineages of rulers. However, they did not like to be called Mughal or Mongol. This was because Genghis Khan's memory was associated with the massacre of innumerable people. It was also linked in with the Uzbeks, who were their Mongol competitors. Now, when we talk about the origin, when we say what was the origin of Mughals or Mughal dynasty, it's like when we are talking about two lineages, that is the whom we can fall back upon. So they were the two great lineages from mother's side. Mughals were the descendants of Genghis Khan, ruler of Mongol tribes, which was found in China and Central Asia. And from father's side, they were the successors of Timur. Timur the Lame, you must have heard it in small stories, anecdotes or fables. The ruler of Iran, Iraq and modern day Turkey. So, when we say who were Mughals, on the other hand, the Mughal were proud of their Timurid ancestry, not least of all because their great ancestor had captured Delhi in 1398. As we all know, Agra and Delhi were controlled by them. The first Mughal emperor, here the clipping is given of Babur. The first Mughal emperor was Babur, who succeeded the throne of Farghana in the year 1494, when he was only 12 years old. He was forced to leave his ancestral throne due to the invasion of another Mongol group, the Uzbeks. After years of wandering, he seized Kabul in 1504. In 1526, he defeated the Sultan of Delhi, Ibrahim Lodi, at Panipat and captured Delhi and Agra. This has been much talked about. The Mughal did not believe in the rule of primogeniture, which means where the eldest son inherited his father's estate. Instead, they followed the Mughal and Timurid custom of copercenary. That is, copercenary inheritance refers to a division of inheritance amongst all the sons. The Sisodiya Rajputs refused to accept Mughal authority for a long time. Many of them married their daughters into Mughal families and received high positions, whereas many of them resisted also. Resisted means they did not like to take up that place or post. Then coming to another section which talks about Mansabdars. Although it is more related to an administrative system. It was a very strong administrative system. But as your chapter in the textbook suggests, it has been taken up from a small nucleus of Turkish nobles. They expanded to included Iranians, Indian Muslims, Afghans, Rajputs, Marathas and other groups. So when we say that Mansabdari system or Mansabdar, what does it refer to? Mansabdari system, as every official in Mughal Empire, high or low, had a rank or a mansab. Their status, duties, pay and importance were graded accordingly. Then technically, all Mansabdars had to maintain a military contingent for which they were paid. All other officials, when we talk about this, we say that all other officials were paid in cash. During Akbar's time, the official bearing a decimal rank of 500 were ranked as a noble or Umar. But by the end of the 17th century, the Mansabdars with 1000 rank were accorded the status of what? They were accorded the status of Sumara. Then when we say that, what they were talking about? They were talking about the people who had been included in the Mansabdari system. The term Mansabdar refers to an individual who holds a mansab, meaning a position or rank. Now, what we get to know about the position of rank? In fact, this was an administrative system where people from different regions had been incorporated. As I told you right now, they were Iranians, they were Turkish nobles, and of course, initially they were Turanis. And later on, they were Indian Muslims, Afghans, Rajputs, Marathas. So now when we say that, what was the idea? It was the idea to have a wider horizon. So the term Mansabdar refers to an individual who holds a mansab, meaning a position or rank. It was a grading system used by Mughals. It was a grading system which had a proper grade, which termed as the rank, the salary, and military responsibilities. Yes, of course. So what was all ranks and salary were determined by a numerical value called Zat. Now, as the higher the Zat, the higher the noble's position, and of course the larger the salary. So it is of course very apt to say that they were determining that the prestigious was the noble's position in a court and larger was his salary. As it has been mentioned here also, the Mansabdar hold a rank. What was it? He was a holder of a rank. What was the rank? It was an order of ranks. Every officer given a rank or mansab. then salary, jagirs given accordingly. So now after his death, what was happening? Back to the king. Now cavalry, loyal, trusted soldiers, royal bodyguards. This was all the entire paraphernalia of a Mansabdar. Now Mansabdar's military responsibility. When we talk about this, Mansabdar's military responsibilities required him to maintain a specified number of sawar or cavalry. Yes, that's what you are talking about, cavalrymen. The Mansabdar brought his cavalrymen for review, got them registered, their horses branded, and then received money to pay them as salary. Now Mansabdars received their salaries as revenue assignments called Jagir, which were somewhat like Iktas. Iqtadars or Iktas. Most Mansabdars did not reside in or administer their Jagirs. Now they only had rights to the revenue of their assignments, which was collected by their servants for them, while Mansabdar served in some other part of the country. It was not essential that he should be working in the same area, but these people, the servants, who were delegated, who were designated to collect revenue, and that revenue had to be utilized for paying their own salaries. So I would be ending up here because later on I would be taking up with Jagirdari system, that is Jagirdars, and Zabt and Zamindars, and of course a closer look of Akbar's policy. Akbar's policy have to be taken into account, wherein Akbar had actually evolved a religious policy. This was also Akbar's policy. This was a policy of administration, but Akbar had also evolved a religious policy. This all I'll be taking in the second module. I have divided into two modules, first module and the second module, so as to make it convenient for you to understand and to work upon. Am I right? So here I would be ending this module, and a small assignment, which is of course interesting. Make a PowerPoint presentation on the division of inheritance, that is primogeniture or coparcenary, which I have talked about in this module. And here one thing you have to do, that is you have to also give some suitable examples which are depicting primogeniture and coparcenary kind of inheritance. So with this, you will be preparing a PowerPoint presentation. It should not be very big. Big means many number of slides. It can be just wherein you are able to define, where you are able to compile that, and then that will be sufficing the description. And of course an example. Try to insert few pictures which are from Mughal period. You would be finding it on the Google site, and also make it a little illustrative. And you have been doing the PowerPoint presentations earlier also. You have made so many of them. Many of them have submitted and many of them have yet to submit. Let me make it clear that everything has an accountability. Whatever task, whatever assignment is being given to you, it has an accountability in the school records. So make sure that you complete those assignments well in time. Well in time means within a week, because following week you are always given another assignment with another set of module. So it is expected of you to complete this assignment and post it the Google Classroom, and carry on with the written work if you want. If you have notebooks with you available, you can do it. Otherwise, nothing to worry. Once we meet after this lockdown, we would certainly be doing it. And of course, I think time provided, we would be revising it, of course. Yes, so we will be revising the entire segment. For this small segment, I have given you one small assignment, which would be a fallback on whatever you have been taught, primogeniture and coparcenary. This is very interesting. Only the words are a little deceptive, but if you get on to it, this is interesting, right? Okay, So this chapter has to be continued. It would be continued. For now, this is what I had to talk about, and keep working on the assignment. Stay happy, stay safe. Bye-bye.